All right, let's talk about the most crucial part of any chess game, the endgame. This is where legends are made and where games are truly won or lost. It's all about precision.
You know, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? You can play a brilliant opening, a killer middle game, but if you stumble here, all that hard work can just evaporate. This is where you convert that tiny edge into a win, or where you pull off a miraculous save when you're on the ropes.
See, the endgame is basically a whole new game. Seriously, the goal isn't some complex, flashy attack anymore. It's all about one thing, promoting a pawn. And your heroes, they're not the queen and rooks anymore. The new stars of the show are your king and your pawns. Your mindset has to shift too, from relying on intuition to just cold, hard calculation.
So to really get good at the endgame, you've got to flip a switch in your brain. All those rules and instincts you've built up for the first two phases of the game, well, they're about to get a serious update.
As the board gets emptier, the value of every single piece changes. Pawns suddenly become priceless treasures. Bishops can dominate the long diagonals. And the king? Oh, the king is no longer a liability. He becomes one of your most powerful pieces.
Let's talk about the new hero of the end game, the king. For most of the game, you've been told to hide him, to keep him safe in his little castle. Well, not anymore. It's time to unleash the king.
So what's the game plan? It really boils down to this core philosophy. First, your king is now an attacker. Get him off the back rank and into the center of the fight. Second, pawn promotion is everything. Your entire strategy should revolve around creating a passed pawn and guiding it home. And third, you have to calculate. There's no room for guessing. One wrong move, just one, and the game is over. Precision is everything.
Okay, so we've got the mindset down. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk about the essential tools and tactics you absolutely have to know for king and pawn endgames.
First up is opposition. Think of this like a high-stakes staring contest. You place your king directly across from your opponent's king with just one square separating them. Whoever has to move loses ground. It's the key to shouldering them aside and breaking into their territory.
Next, a real lifesaver, the rule of the square. This is just a brilliant mental shortcut. You see a pawn running down the board? Can your king catch it? Well, just draw a mental square from the pawn to its promotion rank. If your king can step into that square on its next move, you've got it covered. No complex calculation needed.
Key squares are like the X that marks the spot on a treasure map. If you can get your king onto one of these critical squares in front of your pawn, that pawn's promotion is unstoppable. The whole mini-battle often revolves around who can control these key squares first.
And then there's shouldering. This is where your king gets physical. You're literally using your king's body as a blocker to push the enemy king away from where the action is. It's a fantastic way to clear a path for your pawns.
Okay, so king and pawn endings are the foundation. But what happens when we add the major and minor pieces back to the equation? Their jobs change completely in the endgame.
Let's start with a golden rule. I mean, if you remember one thing about rook endgames, make it this. Rooks belong behind passed pawns. It doesn't matter if it's your pawn or their pawn. Behind it is where you want your rook to be, either to push it forward or to stop it in its tracks.
You know, the difference between an active rook and a passive one is just night and day. An active rook, one that's zipping around, controlling files, creating threats, is so powerful it's often considered worth an extra pawn. But a passive rook, one that's just stuck babysitting a pawn, that's a huge weakness. Activity is everything for a rook.
Now here's a very specific but super important trick you've got to know. If you have a bishop and a pawn on the edge of the board, a rook pawn, look at the color of the promotion square. If that square is the opposite color of your bishop and the enemy king can get to that corner, you can't win. It's a draw. Knowing this can save you from a lost position.
All right, you ready to level up? Let's quickly go over a few advanced concepts. These are the ideas that really separate the good endgame players from the great ones.
So a few things to keep in your back pocket. The distant passed pawn. That's your ultimate decoy. You create it on one side of the board to pull their king away, then you attack on the other. Connected passed pawns, they're an absolute steamroller, protecting each other as they march. On defense, you've got the fortress, a brilliant way to set up your pieces so that even if you're down material, your opponent just can't break through. And structurally, try to have fewer pawn islands. Isolated pawns are weaknesses. But above all, remember the simplest rule. Get your king to the center. The more centralized king almost always has the advantage.
I just love this analogy. The endgame isn't about wild attacks. It's a game of patience, of incredible precision.
You slowly improve your position, you wait for that one tiny mistake from your opponent, and then you execute your plan flawlessly. It's clinical.
So you see, the endgame isn't really an end at all. It's a new beginning. If you can master these ideas, you'll start turning those frustrating draws into wins and those crushing losses into hard-fought draws. The only question is, are you ready to become a true finisher?